a surprising move, to say the least. The judge presiding over the Stormy Daniels hush money criminal trial ordered President-elect Donald Trump to be sentenced Friday. That's just 10 days before he's set to assume the presidency once again. That timetable is lightning quick. And a last-minute decision by Merchan, who signaled Trump would get an unconditional discharge and no jail time or probation. The move raised a lot of eyebrows and questions and the president-elect's ire. Joining me to offer some perspective, a man known as a nationally fierce prosecuting and defense attorney and legal analyst, Jeremy Rosenthal. Thanks for joining us once again, Jeremy.
Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning. So first, in Judge Juan Merchan's 18-page opinion and order, he rejected a number of Mr. Trump's arguments against his sentencing, including that a president-elect is entitled to the same immunity as a president. And he also rejected a motion to dismiss Trump's case in the interest of justice, in what he called Trump's, quote, disdain for the third branch of government, whether state or federal. Is he laying down a marker and saying he will not be intimidated by the incoming president?
By the people?
Yeah, I think he's being very clear about that. I mean, Donald Trump has a lot of political power these days and a lot of sway. He carries with him the voters, if you will. He just won a national election. And we see in Georgia, for instance, we see appellate courts in the Fani Willis case where the appellate courts there basically sided with Donald Trump and said, we're going to go out on a really small limb here and disqualify Fani Willis because, in essence, they're possibly intimidated by Trump, or they are their voters they feel like are the same. Judge Merchan doesn't have that issue, and he doesn't have that concern. And if you will, this 18-page order and what we see on Friday may very well be Judge Merchan's pound of flesh here.
Let me take this one step further. Merchan notes specifically that Trump's filings, quote, accuse his court of engaging in unlawful and unconstitutional conduct. And he also stated in his opinion, this court is in complete agreement with Chief Justice Roberts' views on this subject. Dangerous rhetoric is not a welcome form of argument and will have no impact on how the court renders this or any other decision. Do you see this as Merchan taking a stand against threats to an independent judiciary by ruling at this late hour?
I think if you were to ask Judge Merchan, I think that's what he would tell you. Although, Bruce, I'm a lawyer, and so I'm a lawyer all day, every day, through and through to my heart. I will side a little bit with Donald Trump's lawyers on part of this one. When we talk about unlawful, right, think about illegal procedure. It's a very nasty word in football, or it's a very nasty word to say illegal. But the reality is some laws are 5 yards, replay second down. And anytime as a lawyer you're arguing and saying the court is doing something unlawful, you're not saying the court's doing something criminal. You're not saying the court should do something that ought to be punished. You're saying that you did it wrong. So I don't know that I agree with Judge Merchan on that. He did make a point to say, listen, this gag order that you have kept calling unconstitutional, as recently as 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court agreed with me and said that it is constitutional. So the fact you keep calling it unconstitutional either tells me you don't read, or it is just flippant. Why are you keeping on with this train? So I think that Judge Merchan is very clearly drawing that line in his mind. Although, again, like I said, in part, I kind of think that Judge Merchan was perhaps a little aggressive in that language.
So all this notwithstanding, pretty safe to say that Donald Trump will try to get a higher court or even the Supreme Court to block the sentencing.
He can try. I don't know of any real mechanism that he's got between now and Friday to do that. The trial court has what is called plenary power. That means that the judge has the case right now. And the Supreme Court is like the instant replay booth, to go back to football. They handle appeals and they handle things that it's got to be the right situation for a call to get to the booth. And there's just really no way that I can see without ridiculous legal gymnastics between now and Friday for it to get there. Now, what's interesting, too, is that Judge Merchan, by sentencing Trump, actually triggers Donald Trump's appellate deadlines. And that was a big priority for him in that 18-page opinion. Said, listen, you're without a remedy here. If I just hold on to this case for 4 years and then sentence you after the fact, you can't appeal this in that time. And that's why I want to get this going and get this done. So if you're going to appeal, you can at least get it started. So that was part of the rationale for Judge Merchan's decision.
So knowing there's no crystal ball when trying to see where this winds up and if the sentencing hearing will indeed happen Friday, I think there are two key questions that we have to ask. First, if you look at Merchan's timing, doesn't it put higher courts in an impossible bind? And secondly, is the case not likely to be well received by the Supreme Court, which we know is especially protective of presidential power?
If and when it gets to the U.S. Supreme Court, they could carve this up potentially, but I don't think that's going to be for several years. So I think that what happens on Friday is Donald Trump is sentenced. That could be a 30-minute proceeding. It could be a 5-minute proceeding. It could be a tongue lashing. It may not be a tongue lashing. But after the fact, in an unconditional release, so the viewers are aware, Donald Trump's not going to go to jail. And not only is he not going to go to jail, he won't have to pay a fine. He won't have to be on probation. And I also think that Judge Merchan put that he didn't have to put that in this order, that here is what I'm going to do on Friday. But he did it, I think, because appellate courts and higher courts are less likely to bite on it, because they're going to come back and say, well, you're not putting him in jail. You're not going to really hurt him that bad. It's not as if you're going to trigger a constitutional crisis by throwing the man who's supposed to be inaugurated in 10 days in jail. So I think that certainly that's a calculated effort by Judge Merchan to try to take away some of those appellate arguments that Mr. Trump may have.
Did Merchan also possibly do it to say that, look, the conviction stands and you become the first president who went to court, was convicted, and now you're the first president to be a convicted felon?
That's absolutely what he did. And if you read the 18-page order, I know you did, Bruce, and I know that everybody in Jacksonville did. So if you read the 18-page order, he makes very clear that that he is not going to dismiss this charge. Donald Trump and his team filed what they call in New York State a Clayton motion. A Clayton motion basically says, look, it's in the best interest of justice for you to dismiss this case, Your Honor. And the judge says, you have done nothing but insult this court and insult all courts, and have been really aggressively hostile towards the judicial branch. Why would I let you out of this? The jury came back, saw over 500 exhibits, listened to 22 witnesses. Why would I undo their verdict? At a minimum, we get to call you a felon. That was Judge Merchan's rationale. And I think that, and again, I think you can think of Friday as Judge Merchan's pound of flesh.
Jeremy Rosenthal, as always, I appreciate you. Have a great day. Thank you.